you for the inevitable green building wave that's coming in this industry. I'm sure you guys are all hearing about this, and I just want to give you some good basic tools and kind of like instill some curiosity and give you some resources if you want to go learn more about it. So it's pretty clear we can't continue with business as usual with the environment, and it's time for dramatic change, and I'm just so glad to see the building industry stepping up in this area. So here's a quick history. This is a really new industry. It's only about 28 years old. You can see it started in 1990. Pioneer in the DC area, quit his job at a big real estate investment firm, started a program to put a metric for what the heck is a green building. Started USGBC, and you can see it's grown. So there's all kinds of different certification programs available now, and this movement has really spread not only around the country, but all over the world. You'll see these buildings in China, India, Australia, Canada, Colombia. So it's an international movement. And I thought this slide was a lot of fun. So this is the fastest growing industries in the US by millions. And you can see green and sustainable building construction right there at the top. And what's kind of fun is the difference. You can see the growth between the blue line, 2012, and then the black line, revenue in 2017. So closely followed by hot sauce production and Pilates and yoga studios. So there you go. So what exactly is green housing? It's generally more healthy, comfortable, durable, energy efficient, and has a smaller environmental footprint than conventionally built homes. The EPA looks at it as kind of a life cycle. So from when you put the building on the site to construction, operations, maintenance, renovation, and deconstruction. So kind of like cradle to grave, what is the environmental impact of this home or this building? So it's arguably the largest trend to hit the industry in decades. And it's catching on among all the players. I'm sure you're seeing this with your builders, your buyers, your sellers, appraisers, government agencies, and lenders. I'd be really surprised if you're not already impacted by this. So I'm going to talk about LEED a lot. It's kind of the gold standard in the industry. I was saying it's the plaques that you'll see when you walk into a building. It's still pretty rare in the home industry just because it's pretty expensive and it's really hard to obtain. So it really works like in a large condo building or a brand new development of homes. So it makes sense if you're building hundreds of homes. It's kind of tough as a one-off. With SRAR, we toured Ed Bailey Jr.'s home last May, and he has a LEED Platinum home, which is the highest level of LEED that you can get. So LEED is basically a point system. And you have the different metrics that you could get the points in, and it goes LEED. There's 4 different levels. There's LEED certified, silver, gold, and platinum. And he had a platinum home, and that is pretty remarkable. You don't usually see that, but just to give you a sense of how much this has grown, LEED started back in 2002. Or 2001, and you could see how it's taken off. And again, it's the white line at the bottom is single family, and it's mostly an application for multifamily, as you can see in the graph. And LA, I'm happy to say, is one of the top cities in the country with ENERGY STAR labeled buildings. I'm sure some of you have seen ENERGY STAR products. So they're out there on the shelves, but you can also certify a building as ENERGY STAR. Now LEED looks at all the metrics of a home. ENERGY STAR just looks at energy. So the program that you would be most familiar with is Energy Home Performance for ENERGY STAR. And that is administered in some states across the country. It's a whole house approach. It does involve some testing. The average homeowner who goes through this program spends about $7,000, and it's administered through a local utility company, the EPA Department of Energy. So here in California, if you're going to take notes on anything, take notes on this slide. Energy Upgrade California. This is a really, really great clearinghouse for if you have a buyer or seller who wants to do some updating. I use this program on my house. These rebates have gone down over time. That has been like the general trend. So I would encourage anybody who's considering a retrofit on a home to take advantage of this program. It works really well. It does involve some testing, but on this website they have lenders, they have contractors who are certified through the program. You could get $3,000 for doing 3 or more upgrades and up to $6,500 for doing an advanced home upgrade. So it's a really great resource. I mean, I have a house here in the valley. It's, you know, a lot of 50s and 60s, older homes, really leaky, really inefficient, and it's been a huge difference in our home. And it's, I'll go through some of the items, but it's usually not pretty complicated things. So homeowners are getting smart about this stuff. It used to just be PITI is what everybody looked at when you looked at what are the costs to have a home. But I would argue that we have to add an E to the end of that and add energy, because, I mean, you've seen it. You've heard of clients who have like a $600-700 utility bill in the summer from running an HVAC. That is just not right. That's a lot of money and that's unnecessary. And unless you have a mega mansion, like, you should not be facing those kinds of utility bills, and that's going to be an impact to the cost of home ownership. So we have to realize that energy is a fluctuating cost. It could make a big impact, and it's guaranteed to keep going up if you keep buying it from the utility company. So obviously we all want to be good soldiers and hug a bunch of trees, but you know, we have to save money too. It has to make sense to your wallet. So saving money is the #1 motivation when people are surveyed for having a green home and doing these upgrades. And it also, being able to showcase a lower cost of home ownership does give you a competitive advantage. Study after study have shown that tenants are willing to pay more rent in a green building. So anybody who wants to buy me drinks at some point, I will give you the long, gory story of what we went through on my house here in Lake Balboa. But I started studying for LEED back in 2010. And our house was an absolute nightmare. It was super hot in the summer, freezing in the winter, like leaky, terrible, just uncomfortable, like not livable. And I mean, it's a cute little ranch house, but built in the 50s, and just, it wasn't right. So as I started to study LEED, I started to look at what the rebate programs were. I kind of got addicted to doing green improvements on my house. It went a little far. I probably need to see a therapist or something after that. But the net result was this lovely Green Point rated certificate on the right. So we did everything on that house. We had an old swamp cooler on the roof, which we hadn't used. We had metal ducting through the attic, and the metal ducting was like heating up like crazy in summer. We had no insulation. We had leaky windows everywhere. It was awful. So we slowly kind of did one improvement after another. Then we went for a refi, and it result in a 12% increase in our refi value. I was really picky about the appraiser I chose and really pushed them on all the green features, and it did end up working out well for us. And about 70% of the cost of the work that we did, we got rebates and tax incentives for, and that work has like paid for itself over and over again, so it was a great investment for us. But it's also made our house more livable, and that's like the bottom line, is we're comfortable in that home without running the HVAC like crazy all year, which it's made a big difference. You can actually feel the temperature difference when you walk into the home because it's properly sealed now and efficient. So I have definitely drank the Kool-Aid. So the challenging realities on a green home. You can see this kid in the bottom that doesn't want to eat his vegetables. It's kind of out of sight, out of mind. It can be difficult to see the actual investment. It's hard to predict the exact savings. The industry works off of estimates, and you put your best assumptions on, but at the end of the day, it's still an estimate. It can involve some complex testing, and I mean, who the heck wants to invest in insulation and ducting, which is not sexy at all compared to putting in a new kitchen, right? So those are some of the challenges I have heard. And I want to help you get around those challenges. I know that you guys are familiar with this process, and you are kind of the center of this whole chain of people that have to be there to make a transaction close. And when you see a home that has these elements, I want you to be able to get in the middle of all these groups of people and be smart and get that value back for your sellers. They will appreciate it, and it's a win-win for everybody. They get a higher sales price, they appreciate you, you have a client hopefully for life, and the commission should be better too, so it's just a win-win. So we all know a higher sales price and a faster close is a happy seller, and there's lots of studies that are backing this up. So the data is coming in, but here are a few studies I wanted to share with you. Seattle and Portland, they found about 4% in Portland, 8% premiums in Seattle. Atlanta did a study where these homes were worth about 4% more and they sold 8% faster. San Antonio, homes with not even a green certification, just energy efficient features, sold for about 6% more. And here in California, the appraisers, who we all know are conservative, so of course their numbers came in the lowest, they did a study just last year where they found these homes come in at about 2% higher. Another study found 9% higher in California for homes with certifications. That would be Energy Star, Lead for Homes, and Green Point rated, which I've shown to all of you in the slides before. And then let's talk about solar. Usually when you say a green home, the first thing people say are, oh, you mean solar? Because it's kind of the most recognized consumer-friendly feature. It's not buried up in the attic, and it's highly visible. So again, these studies are showing over and over again that the solar systems do add value to a home. There was a multi-state study that showed that the solar adds about $4 a watt to new and existing homes. California did another study, 2 out of 72,000 homes, and those homes sold for an average of $17,000 more, which is a 91% recovery on the investment. And then San Diego and Sacramento found a 97% ROI. And that ROI is just on the sales price. That does not even include the savings that you realize by having that solar on your home in the first place. So how do you assess a building's greenness? Like, what makes a green building exactly? So LEED has lots of categories. These are the categories for homes. And you'll notice that these circles overlap, and there's a reason for that. Anytime you touch something in one area, it usually impacts other areas. So we call it like the water and energy nexus. Pretty much those are always tied together. If you touch one system in the house, it's like an ecosystem. You impact all these other areas. So I'm quickly going to go through these 5 metrics, and I have a whole presentation literally just on this. So if you guys want me to come back and do that, we can do all these LEED items and all the green home items, but I'm just going to zip through and give you examples and tell you why each metric is important. So the first is energy. So buildings in the US use about 30% of our nation's energy, and 22% of that is used on housing. 70% of the energy we're using is coming from burning fossil fuels. That's a nearly 200-year-old technology, and it's contributing to all kinds of problems such as global warming, releasing nitrogen and sulfur dioxides, which contributes to smog and acid rain. There is a better way. And this is a really important this is where most of the points are in a LEED rating system, because this is just the greatest impact is felt here. And a lot of these items that you can do will quickly impact, the energy footprint of a home. I also want to kind of talk about the concept of energy conservation versus energy production. So one thing you could do is cut down on your existing footprint. So you could do smart things like lighting, appliances, HVAC, better insulation, making sure your home is airtight. That cuts your footprint down, and that's what you want to do first before you put the solar on. So solar is for energy generation, and you should not be putting a solar system on an inefficient, leaky house that is wasting energy. So first you do the conservation, and then you do the generation. So hopefully that makes sense. The next metric is water. So we have suffered through some pretty serious droughts here in Southern California. We all know how important this precious resource is. 1% of the Earth's water is fresh and ready to consume, 2% is frozen, and the rest is salt water. That is a scary statistic, and we're already seeing some of the impacts of water shortages. I mean, I think in South Africa, a city of 4 million is literally about to run out of water. Like, this is scary stuff. So in the US, we use over 340 billion gallons a day of water, and usually that's running at a deficit. So we're taking surface and aquifer resources faster than we can replenish them. It's going to be a problem in the long term. So the average US consumer uses 100 gallons of water a day. That is a whopping number. And implementing some of these things in your home can quickly reduce your footprint. And I'm sure you guys are familiar with this. Low flow toilets, low water appliances, California friendly landscaping. That's landscaping that is suited and adapted for our local climate instead of being a water hog like some of these lawns and tropical plants are. Like, what the heck are tropical plants doing in Southern California? It makes no sense to me, but I'll get off my high horse. Shower heads, low flow shower heads, and sink aerators. So you can quickly cut about 20 to 30% of your water use just by implementing some of those. Materials and resources. So if you think about all the stuff that goes into your house, those were raw materials that were extracted, processed, and transported to get to your house. And 40% of the US solid waste stream, 40% is construction and demolition waste. Something is clearly wrong in that industry. So some ways to cut down are using salvaged materials, using recycled content materials, local materials, which reduces the environmental impact of transportation. Like, why are we having materials come across oceans when we, hopefully be buying local? And rapidly renewable materials. I'm sure some of you have seen the bamboo floors. That would be an example. Air quality. So poor indoor air quality can adversely affect your health, your productivity, and your quality of life. I'm sure some of you have heard about sick building syndrome. That's when buildings don't have proper ventilation, and then all the germs and cooties and yucky stuff is just getting circulated through the HVAC over and over, making people literally sick. So the EPA estimates that indoor air quality can be up to 5 times as polluted as outdoor air. And considering how much time most Americans spend indoors, you're breathing in all that junk. So there are points for this as well. And a lot of the items here also impact kind of like how a home feels. So it's thermal comfort, daylighting, indoor chemical and pollutant source control, no VOCs, which are the volatile organic compounds, which are in a lot of the cleaning materials that people use. Low emitting materials, so when you buy a new couch and it off gases, and it's several years actually that those pollutants are in the air of your house. And just increasing natural ventilation. There's even a point in LEED for a shoes off zone. And the last item is sustainable sites. So a lot of times if it's a new development, of course they can position the home to be like perfectly positioned to get natural light and get, take advantage of ventilation and be near public transportation and be walking and walking and biking distance from amenities. But oftentimes, we're selling existing homes. So there's not that much you can do, but there are some items that you can control here, such as rainwater